don't know much beyond that. And when I say, what are your favorite films from the old days, from the black and white days of the 30s and 40s, I don't get a lot of answers that give me comfort. And I'm finding that if people are going to just study the movie brats of the 1970s, what they're learning is a pretty weak carbon copy, because all the movie brats learned from the masters of the 40s and 50s and 30s.
Steven Spielberg's cinematic tastes are as broad and ambitious as the career they helped shape. The director, whose filmography redefined popular cinema, has frequently paid tribute to the films that first ignited his imagination. In numerous interviews over the decades, Spielberg has spoken with reverence about the works that continue to inform his craft.
I have a lot of sort of ambition about my predecessors, all the geniuses that all of us, whether we know it or not, are learning from and upon whose shoulders we stand.
Here, we count down his 10 favorite films of all time, drawn from his own candid reflections and recollections. For Spielberg, cinema began not with narrative, but with sensation.
A kid with a full imagination.
Disney's Fantasia, a daring collision of classical music and animation, captivated the young Spielberg. It was an overwhelming experience, he once recalled, like watching music come alive. As a child, he was enthralled by the abstract sequences, particularly the Night on Bald Mountain segment, which fueled his lifelong fascination with the fantastical. Fantasia left an indelible mark, instilling in him a belief that cinema could transcend words altogether, communicating through pure visual poetry. It also kindled his early interest in marrying sound and vision in inventive ways, a hallmark of his later films such as Close Encounters of the Third Kind. The French New Wave offered a stark contrast to the polished storytelling of Hollywood, and none resonated more deeply with Spielberg than Truffaut's The 400 Blows. Chronicling the loneliness of a misunderstood boy, it spoke directly to Spielberg's own experiences growing up. "There's so much of myself in that film," he admitted. Raised in a fractured home, Spielberg identified with the film's sense of alienation and yearning for acceptance. His admiration for Truffaut would later blossom into collaboration. Truffaut's role in Close Encounters was a personal coup for Spielberg, who said, "Working with Francois was like touching a piece of history." Often cited as the greatest film ever made, Citizen Kane was, for Spielberg, a masterclass in innovation.
Charles Foster Kane is...
Sure, he started the war. But do you think if it hadn't been for Mr. Kane, the United States would have the Panama Canal?
Charles Foster Kane is nothing more or less than a communist!
Wells showed us that you could break every rule and still engage the audience, he said. He marveled at the film's non-linear storytelling and radical cinematography. Spielberg was so influenced by Kane that he eventually bought the famous Rosebud sled at auction, calling it the most symbolic piece of movie history. The film's audacity encouraged him to push technical boundaries, a spirit that can be seen in everything from Jurassic Park's pioneering visual effects to the narrative complexity of Munich. Kubrick's seminal science fiction opus left Spielberg awestruck.
The sixth member of the Discovery crew was the HAL 9000 computer.
Everything is going extremely well.
One gets the sense that he is capable of emotional responses.
Well, hell, I'm dead if I can find anything wrong with him. No.
It wasn't just a movie, it was an event, he recalled. Spielberg has described seeing 2001 as a religious experience, one that redefined what cinema could be. The profound ambiguity of Kubrick's vision profoundly influenced Spielberg's approach to storytelling, especially in films like AI Artificial Intelligence, which he completed after Kubrick's death. Spielberg acknowledged the challenge of honoring Kubrick's legacy while making the film his own. "I was trying to channel Stanley without being a mimic." The meticulous construction of suspense in Hitchcock's Psycho made an indelible impact.
I think that we're all in our private traps, clamped in them.
Spielberg has often spoken about the film's devastating power to manipulate audiences. "He broke all the rules," Spielberg said. "He killed off the star halfway through, and nobody had ever seen anything like it." Hitchcock's daring narrative choices taught Spielberg the value of shock and emotional misdirection. In Jaws, for instance, Spielberg deliberately withheld the appearance of the shark to ratchet up the tension, a lesson he directly attributes to Hitchcock's influence. John Ford's Western epic, with its complex themes of vengeance and redemption, is woven into the DNA of Spielberg's storytelling.
It's John Wayne as Ethan Edwards, who had a rare kind of courage. The courage that simply keeps on, far beyond all reasonable endurance.
He has acknowledged its influence on films like E.T. and Saving Private Ryan. Ford's eye for framing was unparalleled, Spielberg once said. Every shot was a painting. As a young, aspiring director, Spielberg visited Ford on the set of Seven Women and was given a brusque but invaluable lesson on composition.
In that sense, he's like a classic painter, and he celebrates the frame, not just what happens inside of it. And so I have to look at The Searchers. Have to. Almost every time.
That meeting, immortalized in Spielberg's retellings, solidified Ford's towering importance in his creative development. Spielberg has returned to The Searchers repeatedly, studying its emotional undercurrents and its bold, uncompromising portrayal of flawed heroism. Spielberg has often cited Seven Samurai as a model for the ensemble adventure story. Every time I start a new film, I go back and watch Seven Samurai, he confessed. Kurosawa's film taught him the art of pacing, the importance of each character's journey within a larger narrative, and the value of action scenes that serve character as much as plot. Spielberg's own ensemble pieces, such as Saving Private Ryan and The Goonies, which he produced, bear the clear imprint of Kurosawa's influence. Moreover, Spielberg has praised Kurosawa's deft blending of sweeping action with intimate character moments, an approach he has mirrored throughout his career. Few films have impressed Spielberg as profoundly as Coppola's The Godfather. "It's perfection," he declared. During its initial release, Spielberg watched the film repeatedly, mesmerized by its operatic scale and emotional depth. He has expressed admiration for how Coppola elevated a crime story into a meditation on family, power, and destiny. Spielberg credits The Godfather with demonstrating that popular films could also be serious works of art, and has cited it as a benchmark against which he measures the emotional weight of his own dramas, particularly Schindler's List. Frank Capra's It's a Wonderful Life is, for Spielberg, a wellspring of inspiration.
You want the moon? Just say the word and I'll throw a lasso around it and pull it down.
It's the most perfect film ever made about the value of a single human life, he said. Its themes of community, sacrifice, and redemption echo through Spielberg's own work, from E.T. to Saving Private Ryan. He watches it regularly, especially before beginning a new project, to remind himself of the kind of emotional truth he strives for. Spielberg has also remarked on the film's resilient hopefulness, a quality he endeavors to imbue even in his darkest films. "Capra taught me that cynicism doesn't have to win," he said. If one film could be said to have changed Steven Spielberg's life, it is Lawrence of Arabia.
I deem him one of the greatest beings alive in our time. We shall never see his like again. His name will live in history.
It's my favourite film of all time, he has said unequivocally. The sweeping desert vistas, the epic scale, and the intimate portrait of a complex man enthralled him as a young teenager. I was transported, he recalled. I realized the power of cinema to make you feel like you were somewhere else, someone else. Spielberg's own epics, from Raiders of the Lost Ark to Empire of the Sun, owe a clear debt to Lean's grand humanistic vision. He has often noted that Lawrence taught him that visual storytelling could carry as much weight as dialogue.
On a purely tactile and visual level, it was just the transitions. The transition that blew me away was when he blew out the match and it became the sunrise over the desert. I mean, moments like that, which I couldn't articulate then, still subconsciously aroused my curiosity about, well, how do they get those moments?
Spielberg has called Lean one of my masters, and even paid tribute to him by presenting a special BAFTA fellowship to Lean in 1990, calling it one of the greatest honors of my career. Steven Spielberg's admiration for these films reveals the foundations of his own artistry: a reverence for visual storytelling, a belief in the power of emotion, and a commitment to pushing the boundaries of the medium. His favorite films are a window not just into his influences, but into the heart of one of cinema's greatest storytellers. As he himself once put it, "Every film I make is a love letter to the films that made me want to make movies."